Greenland is no longer just ice and isolation. It is becoming a military front line. France has become the latest country to confirm a military deployment to Greenland. This after French President Emmanuel Macron called an emergency defense cabinet meeting to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's stance on Danish territory.
This is a strong political signal. People were saying Europe was taking its time, but that's not quite true. So this Arctic endurance operation has been underway since yesterday. Military forces from various countries, at the request of Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Germany and France, are currently en route, and some of them are already positioned in Greenland, specifically in Nuuk. And so this is a first exercise.
How much for French?
Which shows the determination within NATO, by the way.
How many French soldiers do you have?
There are about 15 soldiers, but the entire operation will be, these are not soldiers, it's preparation for an exercise. So we are currently with, notably, I think, high mountain specialists. The president is also meeting this morning very quickly at Defense Council, and he will have the opportunity to speak on this subject in his wishes to the armed forces this noon in Istres. We will show the United States that NATO is present, that Denmark has tremendously increased in terms of resources and funding its surveillance capabilities of Greenland, and that furthermore the European Union provides support and European countries are mobilizing within NATO to ensure the national security of the entire region and therefore also for the United States.
This comes after Denmark on Wednesday announced it is sending more troops, aircraft and naval vessels to Greenland, an extraordinary move that underscores how fast tensions are rising in the Arctic. The deployment will include forces from NATO allies as Copenhagen moves to reinforce its grip on the vast island, now squarely in Washington's strategic sights. Meanwhile, Germany, Norway and Sweden have also stepped in. Stockholm confirmed it is dispatching military officers to Greenland at Denmark's request, marking a rare show of Nordic coordination far north of Europe. Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen said several Allied forces could arrive within hours, with more expected in the coming days. Additionally, Canada and France say they plan to open consulates in Greenland's capital Nuuk in the coming weeks. However, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has refused to send troops to Greenland, despite the new European mission to strengthen security of the Arctic. Poland is currently invested in strengthening its defense against Russia on the eastern flank amid the war in Ukraine. The buildup comes amid mounting unease among UE leaders over US President Donald Trump's repeated insistence that Greenland should fall under American control. Trump has argued that the island is critical to US security and must be protected from growing Russian and Chinese influence in the Arctic.
Mr. President, on NATO, right now it sounds like you are saying that you would potentially acquire Greenland by force. That would be a NATO country. The United. Are you saying that? Would you do that?
No, you're saying that.
Would you
I
acquire
didn't
that by
say it.
force
No,
right
you're
now?
telling me that that's what I'm going to do. You don't know what I'm going to do.
So what are the options?
Your
then?
network
Because
doesn't know either.
The Danish foreign minister said that there's still fundamental differences after the meeting with Rubio and with the vice president. Are you willing to leave the NATO alliance in order to get what you want with Greenland? What are the options right now?
Well, I wouldn't be telling you what I'm willing to do, certainly. I'm not going to give up options, but it's very important. Greenland's very important for the national security, including of Denmark. And the problem is, there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it if Russia or China wants to occupy Greenland. But there's everything we can do. You found that out last week with Venezuela. There's everything we can do about things such as that. Not going to happen. We're not, I can't rely on Denmark being able to fend themselves off. They were talking about they put an extra dog, and they were serious about this. They put an extra dog sled there last month. They added a second dog sled. That's not going to do the trick.
Denmark fought alongside the United States in both Afghanistan
Thank you
and
for telling me
Iraq.
that. I appreciate it.
But
I have a very good relationship
they're
with
an
Denmark,
ally
and we'll see how it all works out. I think something will work out. Yeah.
While Danish officials have downplayed the risk of direct confrontation, the actions on the ground tell a different story. Asked about the possibility of a U.S. military offensive, Poulsen called it a very hypothetical scenario and stressed that he does not believe one NATO country would attack another. Still, Denmark's decision to reinforce Greenland signals that hypothetical risks are being taken seriously. Greenland sits astride critical Arctic shipping routes, airspace, and early warning systems. As global competition in the polar region intensifies, control and presence matter, and Denmark, with the EU on its side, is moving fast to show it is not standing alone.
Greenland belongs to its people. So it's up to Denmark and Greenland, and only to them, to decide on matters that are concerning Denmark and Greenland. That's point number one, and that's very important. We are in constant contact with the Danish government, also to listen to what the needs are, what the needs of the Greenlanders are, in very close contact. Second, Greenland is part of NATO. And when we are speaking about Arctic security, this is one of the core topics of NATO, and we know that the glue between the allies is the fact that there's always the clear motto, one for all for one. So NATO is one forum to integrate the different interests that are out there. The Arctic and Arctic security is also a matter for the European Union without any question. And we've invested since years in our relationship with Greenland. I was there last year, before all this happened, to open the office in Nuuk so that we have a constant channel of communication with the Greenlanders. We have an investment program. We've stepped up our engagement since last year. We have accelerated our work. So there's a strong and good and existing relationship between the European Union and the Greenlanders. And for me, it's important that the Greenlanders know, and they know this by the deeds, not only by the words, that we respect the wishes of the Greenlanders and their interests, and that they can count on us.
Diplomacy is running in parallel with troop movements. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen and Greenland's Foreign Minister Vivian Motzfeldt arrived in Washington on Wednesday for urgent talks with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
The whole idea and the reason why we asked for this meeting was to turn public debate in a very, black and white kind of setting into a discussion where there's room for nuances. And therefore I'm pleased, even though we do not agree whether this is doable, while we at the same time should respect the Kingdom's red lines, at least it is productive to start discussions at a high level. And then we have to see whether we will be successful or not. I would say, and that is probably in comparison to some of the public debate, that the meeting took place in a very constructive atmosphere, where we also had, as I said, the opportunity to at least challenge the narrative presented by the American president. And I think that is a necessity if we want to have a proper debate. And therefore we will also continue to do what we already have done. We have been stepping up. We have allocated almost $15 billion within just the last couple of years to capabilities in the High North. We have been pushing among the Arctic NATO states for a bigger NATO engagement. Honestly speaking, and now I can only point fingers at the former American administration, US has historically been a bit reluctant. Hopefully that will change now. There's a dialogue within the NATO framework, and we want to step up. And hopefully that could also accommodate some of the president's concern. But it's not that I'm now, saying everything is solved. It's not solved. We didn't manage, but I honestly speaking, I didn't believe that was doable. We didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland, We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom. There's a government in Greenland with support from 3/4 of the Greenlandic population. The premier made it very, very clear yesterday that Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the kingdom of Denmark. And therefore, this is a common position that we want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be respectful cooperation and it must respect the Reds.
What we have been saying that the meeting is been on a respect way, and we have shown where our limits are, and from there I think that it will be very good to look forward, and this high level group that is going to work together. As I'm already saying, that it's all our interest to find the right path.
It is, of course, very emotional for all of us, and of course, particularly for people living up in Greenland, but also for people in Denmark. And we both took the opportunity, of course, also to express that it is not easy to think innovative about solutions when you wake up every morning to different threats. Whether that will have an impact, I can't say for sure, but I can only say that it is in everybody's interest, even though we disagree, that we agree to try to explore whether it is doable to accommodate some of the concerns while at the same time respecting the integrity of the Danish kingdom's territory and the self-determination of the Greenlandic people. Thank you.
The message from Copenhagen and Stockholm is clear. Greenland is not up for grabs. As soldiers head north and allies rally together, the Arctic is rapidly transforming into a theater of geopolitical tension, one where even hypothetical threats are now shaping real-world military action.